quick conversation because it's going on right now about child bunny hopping versus crawling, and I want to see the hip x-rays, and parents are told hips are fine, which lots of times you are told the hips are fine because they're only evaluating the hip socket and they're not noting incomplete ischiums, coxa coxavera, any kind of structural changes within the pelvis. Even sometimes the pelvis is more shallow on one side versus the other. So like I have messed up hips, right? If you've been following me, I have femoral torsion. But at the same time, please, guys, I can't stress enough. Now, what people don't understand is structure in movement, right? So I've said it many times before. You can't take a one-story home and turn it into a skyscraper. It doesn't have the structure to support that. You have to reinforce it. You might have to go down a couple of stories, bring in steel, and so forth. And that is a good visualization techniques. Or when I say like a car is out of alignment, that car will never put itself back into alignment. So why would your baby, right? When a baby's saying, this is the way I'm supposed to be moving, it's not going, so, but what if I move my foot just this way? And that's where Feldenkrais was brilliant at, because he started looking at those features. But this is where I'm like, yeah, I get where you're trying to go, but lots of times with his lessons, they weren't of functional movements. They were a possibility of movement. But with babies, the movement has to be functional, right? So when a child has coxavalga, like say, and I'm going to try and explain it. I have a great new pelvis here, but at the same time, I don't have an abnormal pelvis. You cannot put any child in all fours and expect them to crawl. That's not how it works. Anybody, and I don't care if it's emotional stress, political, environmental, whatever. The human body needs to know it can go in and out of something, right? And that's how it starts through development. So placing a child on all fours is not going to facilitate crawling. True all fours is, I've already come up to sitting, and now I'm in sitting and I can play to the right, transfer over to the left, crossing those rotational midlines, and all of a sudden I'm transitioning into all fours, right? And I also am transitioning back. This skill will happen before a child is crawling. They are transitioning in and out of all fours. But to transition, right, and this is where my great new pelvis is. So you're supposed to, and this is going to be a real quickie, you're supposed to have this nice, beautiful little angle to go in and out of all your movements. The way the human body was designed, oh my gosh, it's just brilliant. Except it wasn't designed to have structural deviations. So with coxavalga, the hip formation should be at about 125 degrees. With coxavalga, that goes straight. To make it look, visualizing like it's straight, I'm going to torque this. This is more what my hips look like. I have what's called femoral torsion. The leg part is twisted one way, and from here to here, it is twisted this way. So if you look at me, I have really crooked legs. My legs want to go like this, right? And this is because they put AFOs on me and didn't do this. So I'm here. When I'm here, I can't go in and out of all fours because I have coxavalga. With this, I can get in and out of the car. I can get in and out of all fours when I have this hip angle. But when this leg starts to go straight, right? And all of that. And this is where they're watching the hips, because guess what? You also have the possibility of subluxation. Scoliosis starts to start. All of those things is what they're watching. What I'm trying to say, guys, we got to do something about it. So when I know it's coxavalga, my direction to teach you how to learn to move, because that's what I do here. That's why it's movement lesson. It's a lesson in movement. You're learning how to go in and out of all fours despite the coxavalga. Right? But when you have coxavalga or any kind of femur indications, which again is my issue, the ability to just go from your butt, from sitting into all fours, now becomes impaired. So does that mean your child can't do it because they're cognitively delayed, or developmentally delayed or globally delayed, CP, whatever is your conversation. And you could say it's Wolf-Hirschhorn syndrome. I can go on and on and on with genetics and so forth. But when the structure is off for the movement, right, guys, that conversation takes precedent. And this is why, like even with my CVI course, people just don't understand. And I know it's a little bit long and boring and so forth to understand what binocular vision is versus the convergence. But if your child doesn't have the structure for sight, of course they're going to have CVI, right? And I just saw on the board that like a 3.5-month-old got diagnosed with CVI, and I'm like, it's way too early. You should be dealing with delayed visual maturation way before CVI. And I get it, we want a child to see. I get it, we want a child to crawl. But when the structure is off, and especially when you're talking about a 4-year-old now that doesn't have the kneecaps for it, we need to start looking at how we're going to help that system. Because when your kneecaps start to go for it, right, and issues, now those knees will start to slide out, and you're going to go from a bunny hop to like this pretty good W sitting. And again, these are conversations I want to redirect before we even go there. So I hope that helps understanding structure and movement. But I have to rule out structure. But when I'm seeing that full-on bunny hop at 3, I can almost guarantee you that you have coccyvalga. And again, to understand where the coccyvalga is, it bilateral coccyvalga, meaning on both sides, or is it just mono on one side? Now there's a deviation. Again, I want to start having conversations. This is how we start to avoid scoliosis, because the chances of you having asymmetrical hips now going into an asymmetrical spine because of the structure of the movements goes up, right? So I'm looking at everything when I'm trying to help you, right? And again, these are things we go into much more detail into the trainings. I do these things for your success. And again, I can't stress enough how these what I'm just doing here, just having this conversation, hopefully getting that aha, or oh, I understand my child better. Now I understand how to help them better. Please, guys, you have no idea what I went through to learn all this stuff. And I'm trying to give it to you on a silver platter. But at the same time, too, utilize it. Really utilize it. I know not everybody can be like Julia and Emma, that they live here and all of that, and the services are available. But please, look into just trying it out. Just trying it out. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, leave the comments below. Happy Saturday, and I'll talk to you in a bit.